This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Grand Spen rocked by triple murder as gunmen slay area don, his brother, and a third man. Tensions are running high in Morgan Lane, Grand Spen, St. Andrew, following the gun killing of the community don, his brother, and a third male from the area yesterday afternoon. The third man, who was shot and injured, was rushed to the hospital but subsequently succumbed. Reports are that about 5:30 p.m., a car drove up to a cul-de-sac and the men alighted and opened fire on a group of men before leaving the crime scene. The news understands that the assailants were wearing masks. The alleged area don, known as Bombshop Bomber Miller, and his brother, identified as Joe, died on the spot. Their bodies fell meters apart. Cops from the Grand Spen police station arrived at the scene quickly. The station is close to the scene of the incident. The news further understands that the brother's mother, Una Evans, was also murdered in the Grand Spen community in 2007. Councillor for the Grand Spen division, Winston Ennis, who is also the deputy mayor for Kingston, visited the scene last evening and told the news that he knew the men well. "It is a sad day, very sad day. The two young men who died, I know them and I know them well. I know their mother and father, the grandmother and grandfather, and the great-grandmother," Ennis said. He got the news on his way home from work and quickly came to the scene to try to get an understanding of what transpired. The councillor said he wished it had not happened and is imploring the Morgan Lane residents to try and see how best they can manage this situation without allowing it to escalate. "I don't want any retaliation. Allow the police to do their work. I know people are grieving right now. I know their relatives and their friends. I know they are hurt, but don't plan any retaliation. Don't allow their emotions to run away with them," Ennis told the news. Ennis said information gathered should be shared with the police and offered sincere condolences to the family of the deceased men. When the news team arrived at the location, several persons could be heard from a distance weeping and mourning, some in disbelief that the men were cut down in the community. A heavy police presence was on hand trying to appease the concerns of the residents while giving assurance that a thorough investigation will be done. The Constant Spring CIB is probing the incident. Up to March 29, the murder statistics in the St. Andrew North Police Division stood at 14, compared with a similar number over the corresponding period last year. There were 4 more shootings this year than the 12 recorded in 2021 for the period under review. Curfew imposed in Mount Salem Zozo. A curfew has been imposed in the zone of special operations in Mount Salem, St. James. The curfew began at 8 p.m. Friday, April 1, and will remain in effect until 8 p.m. Sunday, April 3. The boundaries of the curfew are as follows: north along Mount Salem Main Road, west along Barnett View Drive, Catherine Drive, and Jarrett Terrace, south along Mount Salem Gully, east along Catherine Drive and Catherine Mount. The police have sought to remind the citizens that during the hours of curfew, all persons within the boundaries of the curfew are required to remain within their premises unless otherwise authorized in writing by the ground commander. Major fire at Wesinco. Firefighters were last night at the scene of a blaze at Wesinco in Lake Spen, St. Catherine. 2 trucks and numerous pallets have been destroyed. Chairman William Food said the blaze has now been contained. "We have great access to water," he said. Several fire units from Kingston and St. Catherine were fighting the blaze. In 2016, a major blaze destroyed the manufacturing and distribution plant. Wholeness hopeful as the U.S. releases oil to help drive down prices. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is hoping Thursday's announcement by U.S. President Joe Biden of an unprecedented release of oil from U.S. reserves will help to drive down the price of the commodity. Following talks with the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington on Friday, Mr. Holness said the current global geopolitical instability has heightened the vulnerability of small island developing states. "We take a great note of yesterday's announcement by President Biden regarding the release of strategic reserves. We hope that will have a positive effect on the reduction of oil prices, and hopefully it will be beneficial to small island countries and developing states like Jamaica, who are facing a really difficult time just coming out of the pandemic and then being hit with these other geopolitical issues over which we have no control or any cause, he noted. The release of reserves is among several steps the Biden administration is taking to punish oil companies for not increasing production from unused leases on federal land. The steps are an attempt to reduce gas prices while also putting an onus on oil companies to increase supplies.
We take great note of yesterday's announcement by President Biden regarding the release of strategic reserves. We hope that that will have a positive effect on the reduction of oil prices, and hopefully it will be beneficial to small island countries and developing states like Jamaica, who are facing a really very difficult time just coming out of the pandemic and then being hit with these other geopolitical issues over which we have no control or any cause.
Motorist in custody after man dies in Hanover crash. A motorist is in custody following a crash which claimed the life of a man on the Mosquito Cove main road in Hanover on Friday morning. The deceased has been identified as a 45-year-old Oreen Clark of a Trelawney address. It is reported that sometime before 11 o'clock, a van was being used to tow a generator when it became dislodged. The driver of a truck swerved to avoid a collision and ended up in a ditch. Mr. Clark, who was the sideman on the truck, was flung from the vehicle. The truck's cabin also dislodged from the unit and fell on Mr. Clark. He died at the scene. Port Maria small business operators to get flood relief checks. The government has announced that it will be providing more than $8 million to assist the small business operators in Port Maria and its environs who suffered losses due to severe flooding in the coastal town earlier this year. According to a release, an initial 35 flood relief checks were handed over on Wednesday, March 30 at the St. Mary's Anglican Church Hall. The checks are disbursed in the values of $25,000, $50,000, $75,000, and $100,000 based on the level of damage sustained as determined by a Social Development Commission assessment. Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie, who handed over the checks, said the initial disbursement is intended to assist the operators to begin the path to recovery. What we are doing is offering some level of assistance, especially to the small business community, he said. A total of 209 business operators in Port Maria and the surrounding areas, such as Jacks River, will benefit from the support. More than 90% of businesses and homes in the town were impacted by the flooding. Minister McKenzie informed that a technical team has been established to address the problem of flooding in the town. The team involves representatives from the National Works Agency, the St. Mary Municipal Corporation, and the Ministry through the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, the long-term program to sustain Port Maria and to help to mitigate levels of flooding is in progress, he noted. Mayor of Port Maria, Councillor Richard Creary, in his remarks, urged the recipients to put the funds towards recovery of their businesses and to implement measures to make their establishments more resilient. It is something to assist you. It is not to replace all you have lost. We want to try to help you to strengthen those businesses to what they were before, he said. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security is aiding approximately 800 affected homeowners and more than 100 arcade vendors impacted by flooding in St. Mary. Everyone in Jamaica should be an informer. Justice Minister urges Jamaicans to report criminal activities. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has taken a fresh swipe at Jamaica's prevailing informer fidel culture, declaring that all citizens who speak out against all acts of criminality in their communities should be praised for their bravery in doing so. If you want a peaceful Jamaica, you have to play a part. We need to expose the wrongdoings of all kinds, and the informer is a hero, Chuck said resolutely, while addressing yesterday's launch of the Ministry of Justice's Alternative Dispute Resolution Services public education campaign at the Mannings School in Savannah Lamar, Westmoreland. The campaign, which will continue in Westmoreland over the weekend, is geared towards the promotion of nonviolent conflict resolution strategies following several recent reports of violent confrontations in schools. These include the March 21 stabbing and the subsequent death of William Knibb Memorial High School student Kamal Hall in Trelawney, and the March 30 stabbing and the injuring of a female student of Petersfield High School in Petersfield, Westmoreland. During his address to the students of the Manning School at yesterday's launch, Chuck pointed out that persons who report on criminals must exercise both courage and discretion in doing so. Everyone in Jamaica should be an informer, and do not be afraid to be an informer. You must inform, and you must have the courage and be brave. Unless criminals know that their wrongdoings will be exposed, they will continue to do it, said Chuck. I am not asking you to come forward and tell the gangster, me tell the police you have a gun. That would be stupid, and you must use your intelligence, Chuck added. Bravery does not mean you expose yourself, but it means you have the audacity to call Crime Stop or go to the justice of the peace, because if the culprit knows you are the one who informed it, they might retaliate. Chuck's stance mirrors a call made in 2017 by the then Commissioner of Police George Coelho for the anti-informer culture to be eradicated. That call was repeated in 2018 by Floyd Green, at that time the Minister of State in charge of youth, when he urged the young people to play a role in altering and going against the anti-informer culture. The pervasive culture of informer fided have resulted over the years in criminals being free to carry out their illicit activities despite the constant pleas from the security forces for citizens to share what information they may have on those actions. The culture of silence prevails because of fear of retaliation or lack of trust that the whistleblowers' identities will be kept confidential. But Chuck warned that if the anti-informer culture remains unchallenged, criminals will eventually overwhelm Jamaica's law-abiding citizens. We cannot be a good society if we are all lambs and the sheep. The lions will eat us, and the lions are those gangsters and gunmen, said Chuck. The government cannot have a policeman at every elbow. It cannot be that you want a Zozo and the police and the soldiers sitting with you forever, as it is just not possible. The citizens have to help. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.